Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of a new series that I am calling SLAMURDAY. Now in this series, I am going to be focused on various wrestling media, things that feature wrestling as a main focus. Things like movies, music, or just all around wrestling in general. Later on, going to feature a triple threat match between the main protagonists in those films and determine which one is truly the resiliency champion. In today's episode, I will be reviewing No Holds Barred, The Wrestler, and Ready to Rumble. So without further ado, let's ring that bell and start slamming. First, I will be reviewing The Wrestler. This movie stars the great Mickey Rourke as Randy the Ram Robinson, a veteran wrestler who, at this point in his life, is down on his luck and is beyond his fame and glory days. Now he just spends most of his time wrestling on the indie circuits, where it is clear that he's mainly used there to get butts in the seats rather than be a performer. After a brutal hardcore match, Randy suffers a major heart attack, which leaves him in the hospital, and after he wakes up with a major scar down his chest, the doctor comes in and tells him, "You can no longer wrestle." Now he has to have a different opponent to wrestle with. How does he move forward from the only thing that he loves, the only thing he cares about? Well, he tries his best, and he tries to even get a relationship with his daughter, who is played by Evan Rachel Wood. Unfortunately, things do not go as planned for Randy, as things quickly spiral out of control when Randy tries to develop a relationship with Pam, played by Marissa Tomei, but unfortunately she tells him that she doesn't date customers. This sends Randy into a binge and a overnighter that leaves him well out of it in the morning, to the point where his beyond frayed relationship with his daughter has now snapped beyond repair. This leads Randy down a dangerous path, a path where he makes a fatal decision to have that one final match, that one anniversary match with the Ayatollah. He goes and makes the call to set up the match. Pam, of course, tries to stop him, but Randy says that he doesn't belong out there. He belongs here. So the match goes on, and throughout the match you can see that clearly Randy's heart is starting to fail on it. The more and more the match goes on, the more and more Ayatollah tries to send it home early. Unfortunately, Randy doesn't want to go home early. He wants to finish the match up, and we see him climb to the top rope for his famous and great finishing maneuver, the Ram Jam. And as he leaps off the top rope, the camera freezes and fades out. This movie was a very good movie. Probably the best wrestling movie that has ever been done. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I still do today. It's a hard movie to watch. It really is, because it's an emotional movie. It's a hard movie to get through. And as a wrestling fan, you know the plight of what it means to be a wrestler in that situation. And you know how much it hurts Randy to have to flip all of a sudden to a different line of living, a different way of living. The emotion, the heart, and the realness that was brought by Mickey Rourke, Marissa Tomei, and Evan Rachel Wood. Three great actors in this movie, leading this movie, and a heartbreaking story to boot. Sean and Gordy are just your average sewage truck workers who just so happen to be manic wrestling fans who one day get tickets to be able to go see their hero, Jimmy King, at Monday Night Nitro. This movie stars David Arquette, Scott Conn, Oliver Platt, Rose McGowan, Joe Pantoliano in a comedic movie that just so happens to feature wrestling. And a whole host of wrestlers as well. This film starts out at a pretty slow pace, but it picks up really fast when Sean and Gordy get to go to Nitro, and they know that they are going to get to see their idol, Jimmy King, defend his world championship against Diamond Dallas Page. But unfortunately, Sinclair has a very evil idea up his sleeves. As a bunch of the WCW locker room comes out to, you think at first, help King, they turn on him and they pummel him. Diamond Dallas Page becomes the world champion, and Jimmy King is left to martyrism. So now it's up to Sean and Gordy to figure out how to find the world's giant mop and clean up this overturned sewage truck of poo. So they go on a journey which leads them to colorful characters such as farting nuns who love Van Halen. Once they finally find their idol, Jimmy King, it's clear he doesn't want his old glory days back. Sean and Gordy do convince Jimmy to get back in the flow of things, and at the next Nitro, they invade and jump Diamond Dallas Page, setting up a cage of death in Las Vegas. Now, they have to go on a training journey to try and get Jimmy King back into shape. This takes them through some rather interesting situations, such as having to also get Jimmy King literally out of the sewers, and also come across an old school stretch wrestler known as Sal Bandini, who just so happens to have a knack for misdirection. Of course, throughout this training situation, Gordy comes across lead Nitro girl, Sasha, played by Rose McGowan. They develop a relationship, but what Gordy doesn't know is that Sasha is a double agent. She is also working for Sinclair. As Sal Bandini gets beat up, well, to a degree, like I said, he has a knack for misdirection, ladies and gentlemen. He gets put in the hospital thanks to Sinclair's goons. And Sean and Gordy must now take Jimmy King back to their hometown, where Gordy's father, who just so happens to be the sheriff as well, detains Gordy for having a dream all of his own and would rather him be just like the rest of the sheriff family. The event in Las Vegas, the cage has come down, and Jimmy King and Diamond Dallas Page are squaring off. All hell breaks loose in a brutal cage match, and it's WCW wrestlers abound in this situation. But just as things seem dire for Jimmy King, here comes Officer Gordy, who just so happens to now be dressed in a lawman uniform and helps out King to defeat Diamond Dallas Page with some amazing features from wrestlers like Sting, Goldberg. I know a lot of people still don't like it, but this movie, while controversial in the wrestling circles, it definitely delivers in its comedic timings, and it's memorable for the fact of the story that it tells, and shows that sometimes resiliency is not from just oneself, but it shows that resiliency sometimes comes from those around you. In our next movie, No Holds Barred, the late great Hulk Hogan plays Rip Thomas, the world champion of wrestling at this point in time, who is just so happened getting under the skin a little bit of one Tom Brell, who just can't stand that he is getting more ratings than what's happening over on WTN network. So Rip Thomas gets called to a meeting with Brell, played by Kurt Fuller, and it's to try and get Rip to come over to their network, to perform on their network, because he wants the ratings, he's a ratings grabber, and the best way he knows how to do that is with Rip's help. That doesn't go to Brell's liking, as Rip declines the offer and moves on to better things after Brell sends a bunch of goons after Rip. Rip sends them packing fast, also bursting through the roof of a limousine. Awesome moments, by the way. Angry at being stood up by someone he considers to be a jock ass, Brell decides to make his own wrestling program. He comes up with the idea of the Battle of the Tough Guys tournament, a $100,000 tournament that would leave Rip with a lot of grief to deal with later on. Brell comes across a man known as Zeus, played as Tiny Zeus Lister, the late Tiny Zeus Lister. And as Zeus wins the $100,000 tournament, Brell looks at him as the prized champion. Now, the only goal is to try and get Rip to fight Zeus. That doesn't go to plan, even with Brell sending a corporate spy over to Rip, known as Samantha Moore, played by the great Joan Severance. She eventually learns of the good nature of Rip and his dedication to charity, and that turns her face and puts her on to Rip's side. However, at one of the events of the Battle of the Tough Guys, where Zeus defeats a man known as Rebar Lawless, Rip's brother, Randy, is in the audience to get a closer look at Zeus, as well as Craig. Craig, however, lets it be known to Brell and his associates that Randy is, in fact, Rip's brother. This sends Zeus right into Randy's path, who tries to defend himself, but Zeus is just too powerful to take on himself, and it leaves him almost paralyzed in the hospital. This enrages Rip, who accepts the offer to face Zeus in a match, which we see Zeus spends most of his time training, while Rip spends most of his time trying to get his almost paralyzed brother to learn how to walk again. So on the night of the big match between Zeus and Rip, they, of course, kidnap Samantha, Brell, and his goons, which leaves Brell with one thing to do towards Rip. Go 10 minutes and then lose to Zeus. Well, that doesn't go according to plan, as Rip, during the match, begins to get pummeled. Craig and Randy have saved Samantha in the time being. Now back in the arena, Randy yells at Rip to get back into the fight, to keep on fighting. This pushes Rip to get his second wind, and this War of Titans destroys the ring, completely flattens it. This then breaks out into the crowd as we go up to a catwalk where Rip would eventually send Zeus tumbling down through the ring, all the way through. Angrily, Rip goes after Brell, who then backs away from Rip in fear, right into some live wires of equipment that he tore apart in his tantrum due to Zeus's loss to Rip. This movie has had a legacy of ups and downs. It seems to go through ebbs and flows of people liking it and people not liking it. I think ultimately it's a really good film. Obviously, it's not my most favorite film featuring wrestling or any big time known wrestler at point in time, but it is still a really good movie. And for me, it just doesn't match what the wrestler told in its story and how it told it. This one was more action driven, and mainly that 80s nostalgia is always something you gotta enjoy. So, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Stick around because now we get to find out in a triple threat Falls Count Anywhere match which one of these three protagonists from these three films is the most resilient out of all of them. For the Resiliency Championship, I now bring you in WWE 2K24, Randy the Ram Robinson versus Jimmy King versus Rip Thomas, also known as, for this case, Hulk Hogan. Jimmy King looking ready to rumble for this triple threat Falls Count Anywhere match. Will he be the one left to rule? The Ram. Oh yeah, he looks ready, but is this going to be his final fight, or will he have one more left after it is all said and done? Rip Thomas, otherwise known as Hulk Hogan, the late and great. Will he rip through his two opponents? And the house in the barn rumble looks ready. The Resiliency Championship is on the line. Which of these three competitors will be the most resilient? And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This triple threat Falls Count Anywhere match is underway. Randy the Ram getting it going. Jimmy King. As Rip just looks on, and a big flying forearm takes down the Ram. Collar and elbow tie up and Irish whip over the top rope sends Thomas down. And, oh, nice move by Jimmy King. This is a big, big match for these three. One that nobody thought they'd ever see, but here you are seeing it on SLAMURDAY. Rip Irish whip and sends Jimmy over the top rope just like he did earlier, and a big shoulder block by Hogan. Now just those three. Nope, never mind. Ram right back up to his feet. Thomas, fireman's carry. Hangs up the Ram. Already getting to be a pretty brutal matchup. Jimmy King working over the Ram. And what the heck is that? A moonsault? Cover, the first of the match, and not even a one count. And whacks King with it twice, taking the King down. And continuing, man, I think Rip has something against Jimmy King. Ram now in the sights of Thomas. Nope. The Ram trying to get something going for him. He hasn't been doing too well throughout this matchup so far. Jimmy King, Irish whip into the corner. And a big clothesline in the corner. Right to the knee. And again. And one more time, this time to the left arm of Hogan. And a big clothesline rebound there. Some rage apparently coming from Thomas. We've seen him enraged before. It didn't end well for the villains. None of these guys are villainous, but clearly somebody is looking at King and Robinson as the villains of the story. Steel steps trying to come into play here, and now we're back to the outside. And wait a minute. Jimmy King. Oh, a GTS-like maneuver. That is a finisher, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2. No. 2.5. Jimmy King with the kendo stick, and he saw it. Now, wait a minute. Leg drop incoming. The immortal leg drop. There it is. But, of course, you forget it's a triple threat match. Randy Robinson comes in for the save. And, oh, wow, what a big-time springboard forearm by King and a cover here on Robinson. Only a 1 count. Man, he will not let that be the end. He will not die like that. And just a big boot right to the head. Randy is going to stretch King here. This is something that King has definitely experienced before, thanks to Sal Bandini. This has been a tremendous matchup so far between these 3 competitors for the Resiliency Championship. I hope you're enjoying it, ladies and gentlemen, because the red carpet has been rolled out for these 3 ultimate stars of wrestling. Get another steel chair. We now have 3 steel chairs in the ring, ladies and gentlemen. What's this? Oh, submission here. Right? No, he's stealing. Oh, no, he's stealing the move of King. Oh, my God. The move thief that is Robinson. And a big knee lift right to Randy's face. Bear hug here. Will this be it? King looks like he's struggling hard, and he taps. He taps. I can't believe it. Rip Thomas, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan, is the Resiliency Champion. Honor the legend that is. No holds barred in the Barred Rumble, and the character Hulk Hogan would play comes to WWE 2K24 for 1 match only. Rip Thomas gets the victory and is champion. What a great matchup this was, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had fun watching it as much as I had fun watching it. This was an incredible event, and this has been an incredible first episode of SLAMURDAY. I hope you've been enjoying it. Thank you once again, Hulk Hogan, for everything you've done in this business. And thank you, Rip Thomas, for being the movie legend that you are in cinema. I hope you enjoyed that thrilling match. It was such a good triple threat match, wasn't it? I thought so. But this will do it for the first episode of SLAMURDAY. I hope you enjoyed. I thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in that next episode.
1, 2, 3.